This is Haunted America Radio with your host, Al Shepard. And now, Haunted America Radio.
Before we get to this episode's great interview, here's another short story from Michael Gore. We're going to finish up with the conclusion of likes.
Slipping off her shirt, she adjusted the comforter to ensure just enough cleavage showed, then put on a pouty face and snapped a pic. She looked like a damned vixen. She posted it along with, "Just couldn't sleep tonight. Anyone else?" And instantly started to get likes and more hearts than normal. But also some weird comments. "Stunning. Love the antler shadow. Is that a filter? I love that effect." She had to look carefully, but sure enough, there was a subtle outline of antlers above her head. It was odd, but it must have been just the logo reflecting the light with the flash. That weekend, Candace and the family went to their cabin for some quality time. Of course, she posted every few minutes and spent at times over 30 minutes getting the picture just right to post. Everyone loved the pics and kept commenting on how amazing of a family they had, that they were so lucky and looked so happy. The comments made Candace ecstatic, even if it was far from the truth. On Sunday, she had to bribe Gunnar with ice cream to put down his damn tablet for a picture, and Sam got madder and madder that she would not put down the damn phone. "Can't we do anything without you having to post it? When are you going to realize that actually enjoying this shit is more important than your friends' comments?" Sam screamed at her more than once in a variety of ways. They fought more that weekend than they ever had, but it didn't matter. She had her likes. On the drive home, Candace announced she was going to turn the guest bedroom into a mini studio to try to become a professional influencer. Sam didn't respond. A month later, her followers had gone from 400 to 4,000, and her likes hit an average of 10,000 a day. Candace truly couldn't believe she'd become a social media influencer. But then, all of a sudden, the likes started to slow down. From 10,000 to 1,000, back to 100 a day, all in the course of a week. Her plans were disintegrating right in front of her eyes. The pics still looked amazing. So what is it? What's going on? Was the phone broken? Before the last thought even finished, she had the keys and was racing to the phone store. Candace was halfway there when she realized Gunnar was home alone. For a split second, she thought of rushing home, but she knew this was more important. Besides, he wouldn't even notice she was gone. He was on his tablet. As long as the battery didn't die, she would be fine. Pushing her way through the line, Candace didn't sign in or even wait a second. She walked right to the counter, to the same good-looking man, only he looked like he had gotten thin, really thin. It was like he lost all of his muscle that was piled up on him before. His skin was even a bit lighter, as if he were sick. Seeing her, he smiled a weak smile and asked the old lady who was at his station to give him a moment. "Let me guess. Not working as well, right?" Candace was in a fluster. Her head bobbed like a pigeon's on crack. Fighting back the tears, she eked out a simple yes. The man nodded, looked at the back of his hand, a bundle of bones wrapped up in dried tissue paper. What the hell? Candace ignored the sight and waited for an answer. After a large sigh, the man simply said, "You're not giving enough." Candace heard the words, opened her mouth, then shut it and spoke. You mean I need to do more?" The man nodded slowly. There were 1,000 questions running through her head, but she understood and left. At home, it took 20 minutes to find Gunnar. He was hiding in the master bedroom closet behind a stack of shoes when she discovered him. He was crying and had wet himself. Candace didn't ask why he was there, and simply told him to go wash his face and get changed and use some of Dad's red eye drops because they had work to do. 5 minutes later, Candace was dressed in her best dress, a shiny red miniskirt made of silk that she bought for their last cruise. She looked killer in it. After dragging Gunnar into the new studio, she started snapping pictures, smiling, being silly, jumping in the air, pouring bottles out, dropping things in slow motion, fast motion, different outfits, different lighting, shot after shot after shot, post after post. Photo time with my Gunnar. Let's take some photos. Silly faces. We are such dorks. Every picture was captioned with a different quote. In less than an hour, she had over 100 posts. She was posting so fast, she didn't even have time to check to see how many likes she got. Gunnar, thankfully, was too scared to complain or not obey to her constant demands. At the start of the second hour, Gunnar did something he didn't do too much. He spoke. "Mom, I'm tired. Can we stop, please?" There was a hitch in his breath, and he was fighting back tears. Candace paused for a second, looked at her phone, and found she had to stop herself from throwing it. She had only acquired 1,000 likes in the past hour. "No, wipe your face and put some glasses on. You look like shit. We will never get the likes with you looking like that." When he broke down crying, she was done with him. Without thinking, she grabbed a prop bottle of champagne and smacked him upside the head. He dropped to the ground like a duffel bag being thrown off a train. At least he couldn't complain now. The little shit was heavier than she thought, yet she got him up into a chair and balanced some glasses on him. But he wasn't smiling. It took some work, but using an old metal coat hanger and some tin snips she found in the garage, she was able to make hooks that went around the corners of his cheeks and around the back of his head. When she pulled, it made him smile broader than she could have ever hoped. She pulled on the wire and made him smile big as they snapped some pics. They looked great. You could see the wires a bit, though. She could probably Photoshop them, but she just didn't have the time. She had to get another post up. She posted the first set with the hashtag #MyDummy. People would think he was dressed as a ventriloquist dummy. It was perfect. A few seconds later, the likes started to jump up, especially for that picture. So she pulled on the wire and took even more. More posts, more likes. Posing for another picture, this time with her wearing Sam's dress shirt to make her look like a classic ventriloquist, Candace pulled the wire a bit too hard. The metal ripped right through Gunnar's soft cheeks, splitting both sides wide open like a sadistic child version of the Joker, only without makeup. When the wires pulled back suddenly, Candace fell and kicked over the tripod. As she got up, she saw the blood pouring everywhere. Just as Gunnar's eyes shot open, he started to scream. She watched in horror as her son's tongue slid between the massive gap on the right side of his mouth that showcased all of his baby teeth and new molars. The blood-covered tongue looked like some alien worm searching on a foreign surface. Not knowing what to do, she fumbled on the ground, found the champagne bottle, and hit him again. Gunnar wobbled like a cartoon cat, about to faint, then dropped again. Belly breaths. Candace picked up the tripod, the phone still attached, found that there was a bit of blood on the antlers. After wiping it off, she noticed 3 letters of the D.I. that were not there before. W-I-N. These confused her, but there were more pressing issues. Turning the phone around, her heart slammed when seeing that the screen was flashing one little word: live. Somehow during the scuffle, the live feed button was hit, streaming live. The little thumbs and hearts floated across the screen, one after another. There had to be thousands. Turning the camera around, she smiled and started to talk to her fans. It was like a switch had flickered on. She reached down, dipped 2 fingers into the blood pooling around Gunnar, and then wiped a streak down her own cheek like a teardrop before making a pouty look. More comments. There were so many. They loved her, truly, truly loved her. One word repeated. More. They wanted and needed more. Just as she was about to reach down and get more blood, the garage door started to rumble. She turned back to the screen and smiled. "Well, my dears," she said to the adoring audience, "you are in for a treat. We have a special guest coming on our show tonight. What shall I do with him?" Knowing it would make for some killer footage and rack up tens of millions of views on YouTube, Candace rolled Sam's head down the stairs after the police busted through the door. She knew the body cams would film everything and eventually it would make its way online. She had become a legend. When 7 SWAT team members saw the teeth marks all over Sam's face, they all aimed their guns at her and screamed for her not to move. Knowing eventually someone, Brittany most likely, that envious bitch, would call the police during the live feed, she had gotten changed for the finale. When Candace showed up at the top of the staircase, with her freshly done hair covered in silver sparkles, wearing the black dress with a one shoulder strap, her bare skin shining with more sparkles, she looked, in a word, marvelous. Placing her right hand gently on the banister, she took a step down, ignoring the officer's commands to stop, and spoke. "You know how many likes this is going to get, boys?"
Be sure to listen to our next episode for another great story from writer Michael Gore. So as I was progressing through my spiritual journey, I ran across a subject called Tantra. And as I read a little more about it, I discovered there was 3 different kinds, 3 different, I don't know what you call it, offshoots, I guess, of this. There is Tantra, Neo-Tantra, and sacred sexuality. And the more I read, the more confused I got. So I turned to one of our past guests, Sarah Strong, and she helped me out by tuning into her spirit guides and helping to define exactly the difference between these 3 things. So I hope you really enjoy this interview. So I just wanted to have you back because I had a few questions as I was stumbling through my journey here and my research, and I was getting really confused because every website I went to basically had another answer. So so basically I figured I would come to you because you listed sexuality as one of your things. So basically I'm trying to figure out the difference between Tantra, Neo-Tantra, and sacred sexuality. So I found this one website that defines classical Tantra as the spiritual tradition that originated between the 5th and 12th centuries, and its various yogic practices and beliefs aimed at elevating consciousness, exploring the nature of reality, and achieving spiritual liberation. And then it says Neo-Tantra was a movement created in the early 1900s, focusing on some of the Eastern traditions and the ways in which erotic energy could be cultivated and controlled through sacred sexuality practices. So then that led me to looking up sacred sexuality, which basically this here website here says how to invoke God into your lovemaking. So the more I kept looking around, I'm trying to figure out, is Tantra to do with sex or isn't it? Is it not, or whatever? So maybe you can break down the 3 different things here and make some sense out of it for us.
So I'm just going to write those down.
Yeah, tantric sex or Tantra, Neo-Tantra, sacred sexuality.
So beautiful. So the Tantra aspect that I have access to, the tantric way, traditionally they say that you can only do it with somebody else, like it's something that you share. Actually, every single body holds the tantric energy. Yes, you can share it, and yes, you can cultivate it in your own body inside yourself. So that being said, of course, when you have another person there, that you create this infinity symbol of energy between you. So tantric sex is a sharing. Generally, it's done with, like in India, they did it without touching. So you're just sharing energy. It's just an energy exchange. And I know that there's some tantra has been done with touching, and also like there's all sorts of different. They're showing me multitudes of different, thousands and thousands of different ways to do it. So in this like paradigm that we're currently in, really there is. Let me just tune in with this energy. They're saying to tune in with your own person and partner, if you're going to do with a partner, and you get into a meditative state. You feel the energy of it. It really comes from your Kundalini energy, and you can play with that the same way you play in yoga or dancing or singing, anything that has an expression of emotion. You can start to play with that energy. And that is very similar to sacred sexuality. It's all about two conscious beings deciding that they would like the energy. So say this is the root chakra, and then you've got the root chakra, for the listeners out there who can't see my hand, I'm holding my hand up. The root chakra is at the base of my palm, and then all the other chakras are going up to the top of my middle finger. So these two beings decide that. So in traditional sex, there's a lot of root chakra connection. That is base chakra connection.
Right.
And
For the listeners, the root chakra is basically in the groin area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's where the genitalia is in the physical body. So the root chakra is connected to the sex organs, and then in traditional sex, that is the main chakra that is being stimulated by the energy. So when you are tuning in with somebody in a conscious way, wanting to move into, really all of these things are the same. And
Okay.
they really are. Sacred sexuality, neo-tantra, tantra, the original tantra, if you want to talk about the very, very, very traditional tantric practices, they will be very, very different to how someone's engaged in sacred sexuality. The energy exchange is the same. Is oh, actually, it's not even the same. I can't even say that, because between two different people, the energy exchange will be completely different than with another two different people. So, for argument's sake, it is a very similar energy exchange between the three, and we will get into the nuances of how they differ. Because traditional tantra, you won't be touching, and it's just going to be a dance of energy. Neo tantra, I do believe that there is some touching, and you're moving with each other's bodies, and there is the main purpose of this is around, not, there's no climax, there is playing with the energy within each body. So coming back to two physical bodies together, traditional sex, you've got the root chakra, which is the base of the genitalia being stimulated, and usually there's a climax. Well, hopefully there's a climax for both parties. So moving forward to having two conscious beings come together, they choose to connect. You can if they're connecting physically, maybe we're calling that sacred sexuality. When you're having the physical touch, you're choosing to allow the energy to move up through the energy centers in the body to then connect into the upper chakras, which is the throat, into the forehead, and the top of the head, which is the crown chakra. That's called the throat, the third eye, and the crown chakras. They are playing with the energy coming up, rather than it just being dispersed through orgasm or ejaculation. And they're showing this symbol, which is like the caduceus, the snake, kind of coming up, and then the meeting. So if you have you seen any symbology around this?
No, I've just started getting into it, and I was getting so confused. I figured I immediately thought of you and said, I got to get with you and figure this out because I'm just going to get more confused. So,
Did you get more confused already?
yeah, pretty. No, no. So the first question I've got though is you're talking about your feelings and bringing them up through the different chakras. Now, are you focused on your own chakras and bringing those up through, or are you focused on the person that you're sitting across from and trying to, I guess, subconsciously or whatever, manipulate their energy up through their chakras?
That's a very good
You understand
question.
what I'm saying?
Yes. So the basis of any conscious connection is it starts with self. It's connecting with self and understanding that the start point here is getting into a meditative state together. Now, there's many ways to do that. You could do either closed eyes, holding hands, tuning in. I burp when I clear energy. You know that, Alan, but just for your listeners, you may edit this
Here,
out, but I don't
I'll
know.
clear some too. There, okay. Good.
Nice. Awesome. So, sitting with your partner in meditation, there's certain postures. Like right now, they have me with the guides. So when I say they, I mean the guides have me with my palms facing up in receiving mode. And then that may be the women's posture, and then the men's posture might be hands on top of the hand in giving posture. And you could switch those around. Focusing first on the colors of the chakras is red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet, which is the same, correlates with the rainbow colors. And you could have pre-recorded a meditation that goes through all the chakra points. You may have a guide there who's talking you through this meditation practice, or a tantric master who is also facilitating the energy. So if you have someone facilitating the energy, they are holding space for this kind of practice to take place. And in order for that flow to keep on happening, maybe that they will check in with you, they will ask you how you're feeling. It just depends on what the setup is. So with connecting first with your own centers, you're sitting in meditation, going deep, connecting with your own energy. And then what they're showing is how the energy connects. When you connect in with each other's, the connection begins with the root chakra, like that, and then it curls up like that together. And so there's a third energy structure, which is the combining of the two energies that come together, and then they start to weave with each other upwards between two people until the energy is connecting them to the divine expression of their being, which is from the crown chakra upwards. And that, then there's this word called samadhi in Sanskrit, is ultimate bliss. Don't quote me on an exact meaning. Maybe you could look that up. But samadhi is when you go into ultimate bliss state. And that is really what these practices were traditionally and historically created to do, and have obviously deep connection with your partner. Does that help? Did
It
I answer your
does.
question?
Yeah, I'm just trying to think if I'm the person that's going to try this for the first time, and okay, I can clear my mind, I can meditate and clear my mind, get everything pushed out of the way, but then what am I focusing on? Am I thinking about the person I'm sitting across from, or am I thinking about myself, or yeah? See, that's where this whole thing confuses me. So, is this, if especially the part if you're not touching, what exactly are you thinking about? Where is your mind? Is this I don't even know how to describe what I'm trying to ask. Um, is it both people thinking about themselves? Is it for lack of a better word, a spiritual co-masturbation session, or are you thinking about the other person and they're thinking about you, or how would you even go about beginning a session like this? Once you've got meditated and once I'm assuming that they don't have any masters or anybody there telling them what to do. So if it's just
Okay.
two listeners of ours and they wanted to try this,
Yes.
where would they start? So
Yes. It would be a good place to start with setting some intentions before going into the practice. Setting space is really important as well. So lighting some candles, maybe some incense. You may want to have some body oil to connect physically if that's the practice that you would like. Let's just, for argument's sake, we are talking about this, we're going to call it Neo Tantra, where you are going to be interacting with your partner.
right. So
Sacred sexuality.
and then the classic tantra where you're not touching.
You're
right?
not touching.
All right.
Yeah.
So let's start with that, and we'll progress through until we get to the sacred sexuality, which I guess is the most erotic of the three, or whatever, I guess. So
Yeah.
from what I've read. So yeah, let's start with that first one. If we're going to do it without actually touching.
Setting space would be the number one, and setting some intentions with each other of what kind of energy that you'd like to share and receive would be number two. Then going into a meditation with each other, either pre-recorded or something you found that resonates with you on YouTube or the internet somewhere. And then beginning dropping in to your own core. It's important to be in touch with your own inner core energy to really feel it. And that is not thinking, but feeling. So just mirroring back the questions that you expressed, Alan, were about thinking. What are you thinking about? It's more about releasing the mind, trying to surrender the mind and feeling, dropping into the feeling of the body. And then what can happen when you're actually in the feeling of the body is this flow between the two bodies that becomes synergistic. And that is the true flow of tantric energy, is when you drop so deeply within yourself that your energies start, because you're both listening to the same meditation, you're both dropping into the same frequency of energy, and you start to share that energy with each other, and you start to create the one energy with both your bodies. And this is dropping, they call that dropping in, and then moving forward is really just feeling each other on that level. And then you could introduce a small amount of touch where maybe the woman's hands are facing up and the men's hands are on top, and then just feeling the energy exchange, because there'll be a lot of energy coming out of your palms at this point. And then you could start to touch each other in places like putting your hands on each other's shoulders, putting each other's hands on, just reciprocating the same touch, maybe touching chests or touching hips, and just avoiding the genital area for a while. You could also move into a sensual massage of massaging each other. One person massages the hands and the other person reciprocates, and just having this very reciprocal synergistic energy where you are continually exchanging energy with each other. And once you've dropped in and have really felt it, you could keep your eyes closed for the whole practice. If you're flowing, if you're with your partner and you're in that depth of energy, you're already flowing with each other, and you become very aware of being able to just flow in and out of the energy with each other. One person gives and the other receives, then the other person gives, the other receives. It becomes just like this infinity symbol of energy. So deep in the practice, you will really just feel what the other one is needing and what the other person is giving in the moment. So it's a very powerful practice and really beautiful to raise the frequency of the body, especially when you're intentional and set space and move through this energy in such a deep way.
So what is the end game for this? Is it just simply enjoying that feeling, that intermingling of spirit, or is, like everyone traditionally, got to go for the climax? Is that the point, or is the point basically the destination or the journey, not the destination?
Yeah, the point is about the journey, and not, it doesn't matter what happens in the end. If it's about being in the moment with the energy, focusing all the energy into the now with each other, because the moment is the end and it is the journey.
Okay. So where
And if there
does
is thought of the end, if there's thinking, that's not being in the moment.
okay, yeah, basically your brain should be shut off and you're just
Yeah,
running on emotion and just enjoying it. Yep.
feeling,
So,
yes.
okay. So where does this classic tantra cross over into neo tantra, or just more touching, more physical?
Yes, so Neo Tantra is more physical.
And then I'm assuming sacred sexuality is more touching even yet. This is where I get confused.
What they're showing is meeting someone in a sacred way in sexuality. It's so infinite, the possibilities, and it could be depending on what you want, depending on what you want to receive, what you want to give. It's like anything sexually. If it works for someone and it doesn't work for the other, then it's probably better to keep it out of the bedroom. Whereas talking about things, open communication would be the absolute first point to to cover when you're entering into sacred sexuality, is finding out what are your likes, dislikes,
Yeah,
everything with
that's
each
that's
other.
just standard answer for any relationship, if you ask me. But
Yeah.
so it almost sounds like you can categorize this in any one of those three that you feel like you want to call it, I guess.
The sacred sexuality would be more around having full consciousness, obviously, what the setting intentions, going into things very intentionally, and there would be less restrictions. So traditional tantra is no orgasm or ejaculation, and just allowing the energy to build and build and build and build and build and build, and with no end game, just to raise the frequency of the energy in the bodies. Whereas sacred sexuality includes a lot of the aspects of tantra, as well as going to full completion and having, because there is something very, very, very beautiful about a sacred orgasm and sacred connection in orgasm as well. So sacred sexuality goes there, and they're showing actually the energy of sacred sexuality is a lot, like, for us currently right now, whatever we create in this moment is for us. So to ancient practices can and will absolutely feed beautiful, amazing things into our lives. And when we take aspects of those ancient practices and make it modern and incorporate it in a way that really touches our needs in this moment, it can deepen and expand, because the energy right now is very, very different to when traditional tantra was born and even neo tantra was born. Sacred sexuality combining all of that and then bringing it into a much more explosive and nourishing experience for where we are now at humanity's evolution right now. So it's kind of combining all of that and allowing it to be an exploration into the future, or well, into the now, more so, for what we actually need right now.
So where classical tantra was centuries ago, neo tantra was 20th century. Now I guess sacred sexuality is 21st century level.
Yes.
Just it just keeps progressing, I guess.
And it's very personal. So what two people share, two other people will share something completely different in a different way, and deepening the energy in their own unique style. And another couple will do it in a different unique style.
Right.
So
So
really
yeah.
there is really is no limitations.
So it sounds to me like sacred sexuality is sex with some spirituality added to it,
Yes.
where classic Tantra is pretty much all about the spirituality part
Yes.
and not so much about the sex. So,
Yes.
okay.
Indeed.
Um, I read, and then it just popped in my head. Now it went away again, so I'll remember it later. Um, there was something about classic sex. You're expelling the energy out of the body when you have an orgasm, but you're during tantra, you're trying to keep that energy in the body and push it up through all the chakras instead, and
Yes.
and that will indeed raise your vibrations. So,
Yes.
okay, um, yeah, I was just trying to wrap my head around this whole thing because it was getting me confused because everything I've read was yes, women are used to having bad body images and all this stuff, and they have all these hang-ups. And there was someone that was teaching a 40-hour class on Sacred Sexuality 101 on how to teach women to not be anxious and be so hung up and not worry so much about the orgasm is worrying about, I guess you would call classic Tantra more of just foreplay. And that's just this extended foreplay, I guess. So
Yes.
I knew a woman once, and I always wondered.
Yes. It's true. That's true.
Um, if someone wants to start all this stuff, any recommendations for them, or should they? I assume they should really like the person that they're about to start it with. I mean, this wouldn't be for one night stands. I wouldn't think.
Well, traditionally, no. Well, it depends who you're one night standing with,
I
really.
guess, yeah. So,
Well, one other thing they wanted me to add with relation to sexuality is that they do take that aspect of building the orgasm and then not completing immediately, but then building again and doing that a number of times. And then when they do orgasm, they getting in the rhythm where you're orgasming together, and it just builds and builds and builds, and there is that very big climax
I
at
was
the
going to say,
end.
I would think it would be a much bigger explosion
Yeah,
after
definitely.
just keep going to the edge and then stopping. And yeah, okay.
Yes,
So that,
yes.
okay. Well, this ought to
If
give the listeners something to work on for homework.
Yes,
Um,
indeed, indeed. And I do sessions on along these lines with sacred sexuality and more neo tantra where people want to touch each other and get into the energy. I've held space for people to do that.
mm-hmm.
And if people are interested in talking about that, they could definitely reach out to me on my Instagram,
Which
which
is
is Sarah, SARAH underscore THE underscore strong. And they could add me there and private message me, and I'd be happy to have a conversation about that. Traditionally, it is good to be in person, but I can do those kinds of sessions online. And if people want to just get started, I'm sure there is a you could Google it, you could find out what you really like in that world and kind of clarify your intentions. Like even with yourself, even if you don't have a partner, it's good to start like, what is your intention here? How do you want to feel in your body? Even with masturbation and satisfying yourself, you could really bring that in to that world as well, like connecting with your own tantric energy within your body. That could be a starting point.
If you're someone who's just getting into meditation and things like that, and maybe you want to branch out a little bit and incorporate the meditation into another part of your life, then maybe this would be a great way to do that.
Yes.
Yeah.
I also hold a meditation class every Tuesday at 6 p.m. Mountain Time. So if people would like to start a meditation journey or continue a meditation journey, it's a space where they can really get in touch with themselves in that way.
So this is the perfect subject for you. You've got everything for them from start to finish, basically.
I hope so. And if I don't, I'd love to. Yes,
or from beginning to climax, I guess would be the word. So.
I don't. Yes, possibly.
Okay. I don't want to tie you up too long. I just wanted to get you on here and get your thoughts on this subject.
Love it.
And I'm assuming now, I didn't actually ask this question, but I'm assuming that when you're settling down and getting into all these meditative states and stuff, you are probably not wearing any clothes at the time, I would think.
Yes.
Yes. So.
Yes, absolutely.
For that one listener that's going to ask me that question, I just had to ask that. So.
Yes.
So.
Yes,
everything.
The whole space would be set up for that. You'd be naked. You'd have your candles and your incense going, maybe some music. And then you'd start your practice and it's about a fully immersive experience in your practice.
Okay. That sounds pretty enjoyable to me. So I appreciate you coming on again.
My pleasure, Alan.
The big orange one